من پریسا حسین‌زاده هستم، طراح تجربه کارکنان و مؤسس رسانه HR ریویو. از اونجایی که موضوع طراحی تجربه کارکنان یک موضوع کاملا جدید در ایران هست، ما در رسانه HR ریویو گفتگویی رو ترتیب دادیم با آقای سندر، مدیر کل طراحی تجربه کارکنان بانک های جهانی ING در هلند. و برای اینکه گفتگو تخصصی تر جلو بره، دعوت کردم از آقای دکتر محمد جواد ثابت که مشاور و مدرس حوزه منابع انسانی هستند تا در کنار ما باشند. تا پایان گفتگو همراه ما باشید.
سلام، امیدوارم که خوب باشید. چند وقت با خانم حسین‌زاده صحبت می‌کردیم که چند مدتی تمرکز خوبی رو حوزه امپلوی اکسپریانس یا همون تجربه همکاری دارن. داشتیم به خودمون فکر می‌کردیم که میشه با چه کسایی خارج از کشور ارتباط گرفت و از تجربیاتشون بهره مند شد و اونا رو به شکل محتوایی منتشر کرد. یه نفر رو پیدا کردیم اسمش سندر بروین، در شرکت بزرگ مالتی نشنال وظیفه بخش تجربه همکاری و امپلوی اکسپریانس رو داره. می‌خوایم باهاش صحبت کنیم و در این گفتگو من می‌خوام چند تا سوال ازش بپرسم. ازش بپرسم که چی شد که سازمان‌ها به این فکر کردن، چه تغییراتی تو محیطشون اتفاق افتاد که با این خودشون فکر کردن که می‌تونن یه بخش معاون تجربه کارکنان تجربه همکاری داشته باشه. بعد ازش بپرسم که چجوری آدما میتونن برن تجربه همکاری، یعنی کریر یه آدمی که تجربه همکاری کار میکنه چطوریه، از کدوم بخشا میاد، از بازاریابی میاد، از منابع انسانی میاد، از بخشای تک بیاد. بعد ازش بپرسم که چه وظایف و نقش‌هایی یه نفری که تو امپلوی اکسپریانس کار میکنه باید داشته باشه و چه توانمندی‌هایی لازم داره. و در نهایت هم ازش بپرسم که همه سازمان‌ها باید این بخش رو داشته باشن، اگه باید داشته باشن ساختارش باید چجوری باشه و اینکه در نهایت تجربهش میگه که کووید و اتفاقات متناظر با پاندمی چه تأثیری روی نوع کارهایی که آدم‌ها توی این دپارتمان تجربه همکاری انجام میدن براش داشته. سعی می‌کنیم توی گفتگوی صمیمانه اطلاعاتی بگیریم شاید به درد همه آدمایی که تو حوزه منابع انسانی کار می‌کنن یا به درد همه مدیران ارشد سازمان‌ها بخوره. امیدوارم برای شما مفید باشه.
Hey Sander, we are glad to have a meeting with you today. My friend Mohammad Jawad Sabet, who is consultant and lecturer in field of management and human resources, also accompanies with us in this meeting to talk about the employee experience.
Okay, that's great. So very nice to meet you, Parisa. And
nice to meet you too.
let's see, Mohammed, I'm admitting him now.
I know a little about HR. I just help practitioner, just in HR. And let me just start this question. As I know, up until 2000, there was no mention of employee experience in the context of organizations, and even the concept was something very new to scholars and academies. Could you just tell us more about the social and the business environment that this concept of employee experience just started to become alive with organizations? What happened? What changes happened in the business environment? That, the stars thought themselves up. Let us elaborate more about the concept and the organizational thought about having employee experience officers.
Yeah, absolutely, and good question. So I wasn't there in the very beginning, but as I was told, was that the first company starting to talk about employee experience was, at least that's what I heard, was Airbnb, where their chief HR started calling himself a chief employee experience at some point in time. And what I think is that it's a direct result of the changing marketplace. You had, where in the old days you would have lifetime employment. People would choose a company, would stay there for their entire life until they would go with their pensions, on their pensions. But labor market has changed. There's several things happening at the moment. At least least in Europe and in the US, what we see is that the workforce is getting older. So there's more great people than non-great people, and that means that there are a lot of jobs now held by people who are going to retire anytime soon, and there's not a lot of people to take their places. That's one. Second is that we have a skill gap. So people are educated in universities or in colleges for certain professions, but turns out that the workplace requires different things from them that they learn in school. So there's a skill gap between what people have as capabilities, as skills, and what skills are required. And that's why you see that the need of, skilled workforce is becoming higher and higher and higher. And that's already, of course, taking place a long time. But I think we came to the insight that we shouldn't take hiring great people for granted any longer, but we should make sure that we would make the workplace attractive to people. We would make sure that people choose for one company instead of another because of its culture, because of its perks and benefits, because of the experiences it provides. And that's where I think there was a very good breeding ground to start thinking about employee experience, to start thinking about becoming an employer of choice or a great place to work. And that's how the concept of employee experience came into existence, where people would not look at employees just as workforce, but they would start looking at employees like they looked at their own customers, like people they should lure in, attract, and pamper to make sure that they wouldn't leave and stay productive and high performing. So I think that's a bit the change in the change in attitude towards workforce that has happened over the past 15 to 20 years.
Do you see any relationships to Generation Z or millennials or something?
I do, but it's not only that. What I see is that, and of course we know that Generation Z and millennials were born they were born with technology. They were born, so they were born with social, they were born with mobile, at least Gen Z. And what we also see is that they tend to be less sensitive to working for big enterprises, working for big companies, big brands with a big reputation than we were. People who grew up, people who grew up in the 80s and the 90s. I thought it was really interesting to work for a bank, for ING, to move, to make my steps on the career ladder, to become a manager, maybe to become a director at some point. And you can see now that this generation, the younger generation of now, just as much would like to have two jobs at the same time, or would be working for a startup, or would be working as a freelancer or as a business owner. So it's much more difficult as an enterprise, as a big company, a big brand, to attract top talent, because they might just as well go work for a very small scale-up or a very small startup company. So yeah, I think it's different with Gen Z, definitely.
It's interesting for me to know that how come you just happen to be in the employee experience the position, and more broadly, what is the career of someone who's gonna be an employee experience? Should they start with communication sciences, or they come from HR, or what? Yeah. Where your career and is there anything that someone can do in order to just be able to just come into the employee experience just roles?
Again, good question. And what I see is, because it's a very new profession, you will not see one career path towards becoming an employee experience lead, or one career path from an employee experience lead to the next. So what I see, I know a lot of people who are now in the employee experience profession. So all the bigger banks, all the bigger companies will have someone who is responsible for employee experience. And almost all of them come from different sources. So one of them, it comes from people analytics. So we're really an analytics structure and looking into workforce analytics, and then making his or her move towards, okay, how can we use analytics to improve employee experience? Some people will come from an engagement role, or cultural diversity and inclusion, or HR business partner role. Some people will come from a marketing role or customer experience role. Think, hey, how we plan customer experiences, that's also how we can plan employee experiences. And some people will come from a more generalist HR role and make the move towards this trade. For every role, there will be challenges. So this is every element of what I just described is important for employee experience. One, it's analytics. So really employee insights. What experiences do they have? Which experiences are more important than others? And how can we improve those experiences? And that improvement part is really the customer experience approach. Design thinking, which is more the innovation approach. And the HR aspect is because there's a lot of journeys, have a lot of HR touch points and a lot of HR moments there. So those are the ingredients I think you should have, and it doesn't really matter where you come from, but you will always need to develop. If you come from analytics, you will need to develop design thinking and customer focus. If you come from HR, you will need to develop analytics and customer experience. If you come from a customer role, you will need to develop HR experience. So those are the different elements. And then my vision would be that employee experience is really driving the complete HR agenda. So what I would like to see, but I haven't seen it that much yet, is that the employee experience lead at some point will become the people officer. The HR lead, the HR director, the chief HR, but anyone in such a role should be.
Did you come from marketing?
Sorry?
I said, what was your own career? Did you come from marketing, from analytics, people analytics, or from more general background?
I come from marketing. So I started my career in recruitment, talent acquisition. So I was really in a recruitment company doing talent acquisition projects for hiring customers. But then I made a switch to marketing, and I was a marketing manager, I was a marketing director, focusing on customer experience and customer journeys. And then 3 years ago, I made the switch back again to HR. To apply my marketing knowledge in ING HR.
Sandra, do you enjoy your new role? I'm very happy to work in this field. Are you happy with employee experience?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm very happy. The thing is that employee experience is new, so I can do all sorts of things. And if I say, hey, we should do this, then people are bound to say yes. Why? Because it's new and they're interested in all the new stuff. So there's a lot of innovation. I love innovation, whether it's technological or process oriented or user experience oriented. I love the concept of innovating to make things better. And there's a lot of innovation in employee experience because you're continuously looking into innovation. Second is that what I like a little bit less about employee experience is that normally in marketing, things go quicker. In marketing, I can come up with a new campaign, a new concept, a newsletter, a marketing campaign, and we brief the agency and we will do it. And in HR, there's a lot of legal risk, data privacy, IT decisions that need to be made before we can go into execution mode. So it's slower, and I don't like that, but it's also very interesting because there's a lot of innovation and new things involved.
And let's talk a little bit more about the challenges, roles, and responsibilities I'm an employee experience officer or employee experience team.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe I can show you on a slide also, and I will send this deck a little bit later. So what we do is the following. So employee experience is a big bucket of different experiences. So you have the service experience, you have the job experience, organization experience, and then the physical and technology experience. So in order to find out what experiences are most important and have the biggest impact on overall engagement, you need to use data. So you need to measure the whole employee journey. You need to measure when people are a candidate, or when they are onboarding, or how they make a promotion or have a personal moment. You need to measure all these different moments. And only if you measure those, then you will know which moments are most important on employee experience and which are less important. And so data is a very important aspect. Measuring employee experience. We do that with surveys, we do that with interviews, we do that with usability testing, we do that with sounding boards, with user groups. Any way we can use to ask people, how did you experience your first day at ING? Or how did you experience your year-end evaluation? Or how did you experience being a candidate, applying for a job at ING? You know, those moments that are very important, we try to measure and we try to get those insights. Second is, once you know what those insights are, you need to know how you can use them to improve employee experience. And that's the human-centric design part. And that means that you need to know how you can create an improved process. And we do that with design thinking. So first you would like to know for sure why people have a bad experience. Then you would like to experiment with a solution. First try to do a prototype of a solution before you scale it up and make it a big company-wide solution. So you need to know how to apply lean startup process management. You need to know how to design, to apply design thinking, and you need to have an agile team. At least that's how we do it in ING. So measuring all the different employee journeys that there are, identifying where pain points are and which pain points are most important on the overall experience, and then start designing, creating improved experiences. So you need to have design thinking capabilities, analytical capabilities, you need to have interviewing capabilities, you need to have workshop capabilities, and then you need to have some IT skills and knowledge, because many of the solutions also have an implication in tools and technologies and systems. So if you want to make an improvement in a system, you need to know how to do that, or how to work with the teams who do that. So you need to be a little bit tech-minded as well.
What challenges?
So the biggest challenge is that people in HR will focus more on engagement than on experience. We know that in HR, every company measures engagement, right? So, job clarity, job challenge, management experience, those kind of things. But what we want to do with employee experience is go one level deeper and really go on journey level into the different moments that people experience day in, day out. Now that is, some companies are not ready for that. So you need to start measuring in another way. One challenge is that companies already have a lot of surveys and they say, no, I don't want that extra survey because we have too many surveys already. So I had to really fight to get my employee experience survey also there. Another big challenge is, I think, the capabilities of the people. I think often in HR, people are very much focused on people. They're very much focused on processes, policies, and procedures. Sometimes they're focused on data and technologies, but in a lot of cases, they're not so experienced in focusing on people as if they are customers. So really customer-centric thinking, that's a new capability that a lot of HR people need to learn. So it's the data bit and it's the customer centricity bit that's a challenge. Yeah.
Sandra, one of the organizations that I do work with them, one of the main challenges of an employee experience officer is that when they find that the quality of the service, the quality of the job experience, the quality of the organization experience, and they're not good, then the interventions is dependent upon the other parts of the HR and organization. It means that we know that the people are not satisfied with their job experience, for example, problems with colleagues or just by supervisors, but the employee experience officer does not have enough power. What do you do about that? Do you have these kind of challenges of the relationship and the power of the employee experience department in order to just implement the fixes and the improvement programs?
And that's culture. Huh? That's culture and leadership capabilities, and that's the thing that we find most difficult to influence. But we know that they are most impactful. So you have human interactions, physical interactions, and digital interactions. Well, digital we know, and digital we can influence. Physical we know and we can influence, and human is very difficult, because that means, maybe we have 5,000 or 10,000 managers in ING. How am I going to make sure that they have employee experience top of mind when they interact with their people? Or how can I ensure that people have a culture of empowering others instead of keeping them small? That's really a cultural thing. I think it starts with leadership, and HR has a very important role to build on company culture and to support company culture with the right trainings, the right programs, the right information and awareness. Mm-hmm. Now that is where we play a part, but a smaller part. The biggest part is played by, people, my colleagues who are in well-being, vitality, diversity and inclusion, leadership trainings, and those kind of things. So I work very closely together with my HR colleagues and other colleagues who are working more on the cultural side and the leadership side of the business. I'm not in the lead there, but I provide the data that they need to develop the programs to make big organizational changes. So you don't have to do everything yourself. As an employee experience lead, you just need to make sure that people have the right data and people focus on the right improvement initiatives. As a matter of fact, most employee experience teams are quite small in companies, so they are very dependent on bridging the gap, making alliances, making very good stakeholder relations to make a bigger impact than what they could do by themselves.
Any suggestions about the structure or the composition of human resources department in relation to employee experience part or employee experience officer?
It depends. You can organize it in any way possible. So anyone could be an employee experience officer. So somewhere there should be a responsibility for employee experience, a team that makes sure that there's a vision, a strategy, and a way of working, and a way of measuring employee experience. Whether that is in HR operations, or it's in HR strategy, or it's in analytics, or it's with the HR business partners, that really doesn't matter. As long as you have a common understanding of this is what employee experience is, and this is how we manage it, and this is the team that is responsible for driving it. Apart from that, it doesn't matter where you put it. It could even be outside HR. IT or in facility services. But I think it's stronger if it's in HR, because there's always that cultural aspect that we need to drive in HR, and that's why I think employee experience should be led by any department in HR. It doesn't really matter which one, as long as everyone agrees that is the department that sets the strategy and the vision and the ambition and the way of working, and that it can only work if everyone works together.
I understand you say that employee experience mostly responsible for finding the insight and measuring the experience, design the experience, and then cooperating with different part of organization to reach agreement to fix and improvement. Is that correct?
Yeah, and one aspect is also building the capabilities in the organization to design for themselves. So what we did last year was also a big training on design thinking and service design, because if only my team can do that, 5 people, then an organization of 50,000 is never going to learn it for themselves. So we also have a training responsibility where we train people to become service designers and employee experience designers for themselves. Working together for the implementation, because in every country you have other people responsible for HR, and we have a global role, and we need to support them in implementing improvement. Yeah, so we need their help and they need ours, absolutely.
Do you suggest that each and every organization should think about employee experience and have employee experience department or employee experience officers? Some people say that employee experience is mostly for tech companies, for innovative companies. Employee experience is for some companies that they are hyper competitive, or some companies that are in really very competitive forces are very strong there. But some people say that no, it's something that applies to all organizations. Do you have any suggestions about what kind of organizations should just start thinking about employee experience and establishing some sort of employee experience department or employee experience, having employee experience officers?
Yeah, I think every organization should invest in employee experience. Whether it's a startup, a small company, scale up, or an enterprise. Whether it's innovation or highly competitive, or whether it's a government or a hospital, or every organization should know that getting good people and keeping them is getting harder every year, because of the workforce is shrinking in many countries, and the skills gap is growing. So I think employee experience is not something that's just a trend or is only for some sort of for certain companies. Any company that sees a pressure on hiring the right people and keeping the right people should focus on it, definitely.
So I don't know if you have time, but if we can have one more question. I would like Sandra to talk about the impact of COVID and post-COVID era on employee experience roles and responsibilities. As you know, the Great Resignation in the United States, and it may be interesting to you that even in Iran, more and more young people are considering just working as standalone people, just freelancers, and just something not that much huge, but something like that is happening also in Iran. That more people are thinking about just working for themselves. Do you have any idea, any themes related to COVID and post-COVID era and thinkings in there for employee experience officers?
So you mean the effects of COVID on experience, on employee experience, or more than
responsibilities of employee experience departments, and maybe any changes in what they do in just relation to just great resignation or things that are happening post-COVID?
I think there's a couple of things happening. The great resignation is something that could not be completely prevented. I think, if you're forced to work out of your house for 2 years, then it makes you think. You have to work in a completely different way than you're used to. You are in front of the screen, Microsoft Teams or anything else, all day. And in the beginning, you think, okay, this is fine because I can stay at home and I can combine bringing my kids to school with my work. But at some point, at least I experienced that as well, at some point, your engagement with your colleagues, your manager, your job in your organization will become a little bit less. I think it only makes the need for an employee experience team bigger. How can you keep people engaged when they're not engaging themselves as much as they would like to with the organization? I think that's you don't need to do things differently. You just need to do the same thing, but probably in a more intense way, because you need to measure, and on the basis of the things you measure, you need to improve things. So if that means that you need to focus more on vitality, you need to focus more on personal connection and appreciation and the sense of belonging, then you need to do that. So I don't think you do necessarily need to do things differently, but I think it makes the need for an employee experience team bigger, because the challenge of keeping people engaged is getting bigger.
Sandra, thank you very much. It was really a delight for me to talk to you. If you think that you have to just add something for the just final comments about employee experience, roles, responsibilities, challenges, the context, I really would be happy to hear about that. And I will just take it over to Parisa. Bye for now from me.
Okay, Mohammed, thank you very much. It was my pleasure, but thank you very much.
I'm really happy to meet you, Sender, and thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience with us.
You are very welcome, and I hope it has been useful. If you ever have any other questions, then feel free to reach out, and let's stay in touch. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for inspiring me. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.